Jeff, where have you been in the last week?
I've been traveling a little under the weather today, Lord Bag. You know, muscle through it, but I
You
was
got
in
sick?
Florida. Yeah, a little bit sick. Um, I was
Have
in
you got,
Florida,
have
and
you got the
I
COVID?
got to tell you, no, I don't have the Rona.
Oh, good
I've
for you.
tested twice. Yeah,
Oh,
I know you're concerned about that,
I
but I
was.
think we had it together when we had those headaches about 2 months ago.
I think so. I think that's when we both got
But
it. Spread it around.
we were all walking together, and we're like, "Hey, do you have a headache?" I had a headache. Do you have a Ian goes home like, Cab, I told you we had the Rona.
I told you.
Um,
Could you not breathe? I couldn't breathe.
so just was in Florida last week and was in Orlando at
Oh,
Cape Canaveral. I
oh,
went out to the Space Center. It was unbelievable. Saw some old friends, uh, Michelle and Paul Reagan, who treated us so good when we came to Vegas. They was with the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds back in the day. Saw my buddy Pete and his lovely wife Jerry McCaffrey. So that was good. And then came over to Tampa Bay
hmm.
and Clearwater and St. Petersburg.
So
Just
you're a
checked it out for a
Scientologist
few
now?
days. Yeah, so I'm all signed up. But it's kind of funny when you see something on Netflix and then you're actually there. You're like,
Hmm.
oh, I remember this building. Oh, I'm here. So it was a great week. I came back, I caught something, and I'm not sure what it is, but it's not the Rona, and we're going to work
Mm.
through it. But
Good
anyways,
for you.
I'm sure that's 90 seconds of people's lives they'll never get back listening to that. But yeah, good week. Now we're just trying to recover.
Everybody from the show would like to wish you a happy anniversary. It was your 32nd anniversary.
Hmm.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah,
Thank
last
you,
week.
everybody from the show. That's very nice
Everybody
of you.
from all three viewers would like to wish. We got a great show for today. We got Doug Huda, who played with Jeff in Detroit, originally from just along the border of British Columbia in Alberta. Crow's Nest Pass. You ever stop there?
Yeah, I was there years ago, and I knew Hoots was from there. And I mean years ago, it had to be probably 30 now. But
2 years
yeah, I
into
went
his
through
marriage.
Crow's Nest. It's beautiful through there. Our good friend Darcy Walkock, another big friend of the show, who I played junior with in Kelowna, is from there. And Rick Rippon, who are friends from British Columbia and Manitoba Moose fans would remember him with the Canucks and the Moose. So beautiful area, yes, but I've not been there in a long time.
I don't know what's going on with my camera today, but it seems to be doing some
I
sort
don't
of
know. Something's going on with the toe of
some.
your skate.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know it's crazy. It's just before Banff too, isn't it?
No, it's down on the bottom. You know what? I think it's south of Banff.
South of
It's
Banff.
the Crow's Nest Pass. Okay, that's
But isn't
the.
that
I
where the
think
what Highway 1 goes through there?
it's Highway 3.
Highway 3.
I think it's 3, but I might be wrong. I mean, we're never really wrong on a lot, but we could be off by a number or two. And if
That's
we are,
fine.
it's only off by a number or two.
There's only 16 highways in Canada, anyways. So.
Yeah,
And
we should ask who it's about. We'll get into the interview first with them. But did you want to talk about anything before we bring him in?
just I'm excited about the Tampa Avalanche happening. Did you know Avalanche Lightning first ever no S at the end of the name finals?
Wow, that's really good. Hey, I'll say this too. Um, well, you talking about Tampa real quick. So I was in Tampa for a few days last week. They have the up on the street lights and all that. The they have pictures of the players and they've got lightning signs, all go bolts all over the place.
They're big
And I
fans.
was quite impressed. Yeah,
They're
I was
big,
quite
big fans
impressed.
there.
Yep. And hey, you know where else I was? I was in Dunedin, Florida, where the home of the Toronto Blue Jays spring training
Oh,
are big Blue Jays fans. Really
oh.
cool little town. If you're ever down there, pop in.
You went
And
on a vacation
I
last
don't
week.
know. Yeah, I don't know why I threw that in there, but
No, I love it.
I got it. Getting back to the Bolts. Um, they're talking about them on the radio all over the place down there. Lots of pub on them, and so it's really cool to see. And if they can do three in a row, Lord Bag, you just got to tip your hat.
Yeah,
Like
you can't. You can. I don't know. I always like to see a new winner, but at the same time, it's very impressive. It can, especially didn't the football team win twice in a row?
they won once in a row, and it
Once in a
happened to
row.
just once in a row. Oh, that was school district 88 coming back. Once in a row. Oh, that's all those years in Skeena and Caledonia paying off for me
Get your
right
duck
there.
in a row.
I drove right beside Raymond James Stadium,
Mm-hmm.
so where Tom Brady's going to play, and I saw where the pirate ship is on the north end. So when they play there this year, just so you know, the pirate ship's on the north end, and the airport's right there. Beautiful airport in Tampa, really cool. And
I've always had a
I know
lot
we
of fun in
talked,
Tampa.
yeah, just what? How can we help? They were really hospitable out there, and I just loved it. I thought it was great.
I agree.
So
Well, that's
yeah,
nice. I was in Dallas, and
oh,
I was
that's
staying
right.
in a hotel with no air conditioning when it was 114 degrees. So let's move on.
Do you want to tell them a quick story about when you started to realize there might have been a problem?
So I was there Friday night and Saturday night, and after the show, I came back to the hotel and I walked in and I'm like, oh, it feels weird in here. And I didn't think anything of it. It's about midnight, and I was like, I'm gonna pack my stuff. I've got a 6 a.m. flight. I'm very excited about it. Going home, 2 days. I've been doing these 2-day trips, and it's been great. And then I started sweating while I was packing my stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, this isn't right. And I looked at the gauge on the thing. It's 85 degrees in my room. I'm like, this isn't right. I called down. And the lady goes, yes, the hotel doesn't have any air conditioning right now. We are not going to charge you for tonight, and you can move to another hotel if you like them. I'm like, it's 2 a.m. My flight's at 6. I'm gonna sweat this one out. I'm gonna go to the airport with glistening skin.
You are used to it because when you stay here, we usually crank it up to the mid 80s for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So you were like, hey, listen, when I'm in Vegas, I have no problem.
That's awesome.
Uh, you like
So
it. I got to crank down this week.
I got to the airport, and for my 6 a.m. flight, we sat on the plane while they waited for the sign off on papers because they had pulled the plane out of whatever, and nobody had
Oh,
signed
maintenance.
off on it.
Oh, that's always a good one. Yeah.
So I fell asleep because I hadn't slept all night in the heat, and I woke up and it was 9 a.m. We were still sitting on the plane, and
Are
and
you kidding me? They're
I
like, hey,
swear,
where's that logbook?
yeah,
Where's that?
they were looking for the
For,
logbook the whole time,
yeah. People
and
that don't know that you think the airplane will fly just fine, but if you don't have that logbook, you could just basically kiss your career goodbye, right? It's insane, but and it's amazing how often those no one can find them. Someone takes them and it's on someone's desk and
Mhm.
everyone's panicking, and so you sat there for 3 hours.
3 hours. We finally got. I
That,
got off the plane, and I went over and checked because I was supposed to go through Phoenix because I was taking my favorite airline, Southwest, and I went. I was supposed to go through Phoenix and into Long Beach, and I went over and I seen a direct flight right from there at 10:30 a.m. And I was like, "Can I get your 10:30?" And they put me on that, and then they gave me $200 for my inconvenience. And I
hang
was
on a
just like,
second.
"That's exactly what I want to do. I want to fly you guys again."
Exactly. Let me ask you this: you flew from Dallas and they have a nonstop in a Long Beach?
Yes, but it wasn't until
10:30.
10:30, and I was getting
So you
home by 9:30 by going through Phoenix at 6:45
oh,
a.m.
that's right. Okay. Well, I didn't realize they flew from Dallas into Long Beach, but that is a huge hub for them. Love Field, Dallas Love Field, one
So
of my
good.
favorite airports in the world. Of course, Terrace is my favorite airport, but I
YYV? No,
love
that's what is it? YXT.
YXT, yeah, CYXT. But I will say this when we're talking airports, and no pun intended, I love Love Field in Dallas and Southwest. That's their home turf, and they just rock in there. So,
That's
anyways,
their home
so I'm
field.
glad you got a direct though. That's good
Yeah.
or nonstop. So,
Well,
yeah.
let's move on to the interview. This interview is brought to you by Super Deeker. Super Deeker. You go on there and you go on to superdeeker.com and you use the code SLICES and you get yourself a little discount. You learn how to stick handle. And the next thing you know, this young man that we're about to do an interview with is your assistant coach in the NHL. Please welcome Doug Gouda. Today on the show, we've got a young man from Crow's Nest Pass, Alberta. If you're going to go to Toronto, you got to drive through it. And he drove through Toronto to get to Detroit, where he played almost 600 games in the National Hockey League and almost 600 games in the AHL. He knows Jeff Sharples from his time in Detroit when they used to go driving around in their Corvette that they got from free from GM. Please welcome Doug Gouda. Hello,
Thanks,
Doug.
guys, for having me.
Thanks for being had. That's what this show is all about. Just tricking people into it. So you and Jeff played in Detroit together.
Yeah, well, I can start the quick story as Jeff and I were both drafted. I was a year before Jeff drafted, and then I was sent to the minors, and Jeff didn't want to report to the minors. So I was down there hoping I'd get called up first, and Jeff come down for a cup of coffee, and then he was the lucky one who got called back up first, and then I followed him a little bit later. But we lived across from each other. It was Chris King and Sharps and myself, and there was just, we lived in Southfield in Michigan, and obviously just trying to get on the right track and break through with Red Wings.
Nice. Was he driving the Jeep at that time? Was he driving around in his white Jeep looking like he was part of what's that movie where the guys were male models?
You know what? I do remember the white Jeep, but he did have a buddy that had a big stereo, so it had a nice stereo in it.
Oh, good
That's
for
right.
you.
That's right. Hey, that's right. Hoods, so Hoods and I go back. We met in junior. Ken Quinney, whose son Gage is here with the Knights program, and Ken and Doug played junior together. So I met Doug in Calgary. He was playing. What was the name of that team? I should know this.
Wranglers back then.
The Wranglers, right?
Yeah.
Back at the old corral, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where I think we first met. And then Doug was drafted. I was drafted. Something that I had my Jeep and my stereos, but Doug had his trucks and his boats. So we were quite the combination. I remember going to the boat show in Detroit with Hoods, and it created a monster.
Yeah.
Because he's had a few boats since then, but him and his wife Shell have always been really good to me. And one of the things that we didn't talk about as we introduced Hoods was the fact that he's been coaching in the NHL now for almost 20 years. Won a Stanley Cup with Boston in 2011 with that team they had there. And so now he just finished his contract with Detroit. So he's nice enough to come on and answer some questions with Lord Begg and I. So,
So 2011, that was against the what team was that? Was that the Vancouver Canucks? That was
Yes, it was. Yes.
So that was as we tape this is Tuesday the 14th. Yesterday was the Monday the 13th, and that would have been 11 years ago exactly. Were you guys still in town when the riot broke out?
Well, we were actually because our family and everybody flew in for the game, and it was 5:00 game. So after the game, we all poured obviously in the back of in the dressing room in Vancouver and then security come and said, "You guys are going to have to leave. You're going to have to get out of the town early." So our families took off. We took off about 2 or 3 in the morning. But as we were going, you could see a little bit of fire and smoke and that. But we did get out of there. Actually, what they did is they hurried us out of there to make sure that we did get out on time.
I love it. I call it the original January 6th.
Yeah. You know what? It was it's obviously what a great city and a lot of high hopes, and we obviously crushed them at the time, but it was a lot of fun to come back to Canada and play for sure.
I bet. And who are the coaches with you on that team?
So I had Claude Julien, Jeff Ward, and Bob Asenza. So we were just Claude Julien was the head coach, and so we won in 11, and then in 13 we went to the finals again against Chicago and lost in Game 6. Mm-hmm. So we were very fortunate. We had a good team in Boston, and I was fortunate enough to be there for 10 years, and then the last 6 years in Detroit. So I moved around a lot as a player, but as a coach, I've been fortunate to stay.
I'm gonna ask 2 more questions, Jeff, and then I'm gonna let you get into it. As they start trading guys away from that 2011 team, are you concerned at that point? Are you going, because it seemed like they let some pieces go that were very important to that team?
Well, I agree with you absolutely. I can still remember one day, and it wouldn't have been an 11, but it would have been after the 13, I believe. Johnny Boychuk was with us, and I can remember having the conversation with my wife at home a couple days before, going, "Boy, I'm pretty happy. I got a really good D." There was Dennis Seidenberg and Chara, and I think Andrew Ferentz might have moved on, but Johnny Boychuk was still there, and Adam McQuaid, and next thing you know, I was at the service station and I got a call, and it was right before a game, and they had just traded Johnny Boychuk to the Islanders. And I'm like, oh my gosh, and my heart just sunk. He was just a big part of our team, and that was sort of the start of us trading players away, like you said. And it comes down to money because they couldn't afford to pay everybody at the time, and it was a big loss for us, though, and especially a big loss on the backside.
Right, Jeff.
Hey, Hoots, you talked about one of the guys that's, I don't know if you'd call him a generational player, but he was sure a heck of a player. Don't know if he's going to come back for one more year, but Zdeno Chara, just talk about what made him so special. I mean, he's a massive guy, but he had to get that body and all that around the ice. What makes Zdeno Chara such a special player and obviously so loved in Boston over the years?
Well, the one thing with Z, first of all, is his work ethic is second to none. He destroys everybody, and it's a challenge to him to do the pull-ups. And I can't remember the exact name of pull-ups, if it was like 45 or 54 pull-ups. Not bad for a guy that's 250 pounds, and he's got like a 4%, 5% body fat. So his work ethic is one that made him become a player from being a 6'9" young man that struggled to get around the rink to being one of the best defenders in the world. And I still think I know now he's 43, 44 years old. He is older. He might not be able to move, but he's still probably got the smarts and probably has the best stick still. I mean, it's 9 feet long, so he can get it there, but he just knows where to put it, know to handle it. And the other thing for me is just how smart he is about the game and how he studies the game. Like I can remember we played Detroit, and we were playing Detroit, and he was a little worried about Pavel Datsyuk. So he comes up and he goes, Doug, he goes, can you, before the playoffs, can you cut me a bunch of clips on Pav, just on his moves and everything? And so before every game, we put there might've been 20 clips, and then we narrowed it down to 5 or 10 clips of what he wanted. And he'd look at those clips before every game when we played Detroit just to watch Pav, because he knew that was his matchup. And he is when he's got a matchup going, he's not leaving the ice. And quick story is he had Dougie Hamilton, which was a young kid with him. And Dougie liked to change early. And he would be giving it to Dougie. You do not change until, Getzlaf and those guys are off the ice. That's our matchup. You're not changing. When they leave, we leave. And he would take it. And another story was one day we were playing Calgary, and Jerome McGinley was going for his 500th game, but we were beating them 8-1. And I let the matchup go, and Z turns to me and he goes, Dougie, let the matchup go? I go, Z, it's 8-0. I go, Jerome doesn't even want to score now. And and the other guys on the bench too, because you have to remember, when you have a special player like that, it's also about other special players playing with him that get it. Because Andrew Ference, Johnny Boychuk, Dennis Seidenberg, and Adam McQuaid, and Caberlet, these guys had to play the game also, because other coaches would play the game, and if Z's on the ice, they would take Phil Kessel off, and you would hear them yelling. So you really they had to be all in too, to know that we're getting the matchup. So if you go out there and Phil Kessel's up there, you're changing. I don't even have to keep telling you. I don't have to wave you. And Z has to be into it too, that if you're out there, Z, and Phil Kessel's not on the ice, you're getting off. So sometimes it would happen. Z was obviously wanted to play all the time. So a couple of times you have to remind him, got to get off. But I give kudos to the other defensemen, because it wrecks a rhythm chasing that matchup all the time. But they did it, and they did it well. And if we didn't get it, we didn't chase it. You know what I mean? Like we weren't going to run to the bench and try and take a too many men penalty because we were going to get it. But going back to Z, that's just part of being a great player, having to play against great opponents all the time. He was awesome. And he tested me when I first took over for Craig Ramsey, who was probably one of the smartest D coaches that I'd been around, and helped me out a ton. And when I first got on the bench, I could tell that Chara was really trying to test me to see if I, had enough really gumption to maybe, talk to him or whatever. But he was testing me. And then we developed a really good relationship, and I love him to death. And we end up winning. And one of the coolest stories was at the end of the game when we were in 2011. He said to me, he goes, "Doug, you guys, I got the last minute." You're like, "Well, absolutely." But I threw him out there a little early, so he had the last 2.5 minutes. He wasn't coming off, but it was just a really special time. And when I think as a D coach, you develop a bond with your players, especially on the backside. And I think if you come pretty close to them, you're honest with them, you demand hard work from them, but you really develop a relationship with them. And I think it's pretty cool.
How do you get somebody that's the complete opposite? So you're a defensive coach. You can make suggestions, I'm guessing, to the head coach, but if they want somebody there and you can't get them to where you want them, what do you have to do? Like, because at the end of the day, you can't make somebody you, right? You have to figure out different ways to get them to be almost like what you want.
Are you saying developing the player?
I don't know what I'm saying. No, I'm just saying, when I talk to my wife, because she hires people, I'm like, you can't hire somebody expecting them to be you and to do the job the exact way you want it, you would do it, but you want the end result to be the same. Yeah. So how do you take somebody, get that end result, and not have them be what you are?
Well, I think they're obviously, just like your wife, everybody's different. So it's how, my job is to figure out how to relate to a different player. And I can use two different examples. Like, Dano Chara is obviously got a great stick. He's maybe a little bit more gifted than other defensemen. So a guy like Johnny Boychuk is, I would call him like a bull in the china shop, where he's going to bang around. But yet at the end of the day, if you had to go in a battle, you're going to go with both of them. And Johnny knows how to battle. And I think you just have to realize who you got and what you have, and work with what you have, and try and get the most out of them what you can. But it's really getting them to believe in what you're selling and trying to get them to come across to work with you.
Hey, nice. Hoots, that's a great point. So how much has that changed over your time? I mean, even when we were players, it's like back in the day, you figured it out, or you figured it out somewhere else. Like, how is the relationship between you and these young players? I mean, Z was a younger player when you came in, but he's a veteran, now. How has it changed, how your approach to these guys and getting the most out of them? Because the game has changed a lot, right?
Absolutely. And the relationship with the players is a little bit different. I think I would say they're a little bit more guarded now. These younger players, like, okay, so we had Morris Seider in Detroit. He was a great young defenseman, and obviously as an older guy, you can learn, he knows you a little bit, but these guys, it just takes time for them to trust you. It seems like it takes a lot longer to develop a relationship. Now, I was only there once, and 1 year, but we have breakfast together quite a bit, a few days a week. We watch video together. And I also just try to talk to him more, not even about hockey, about life. He's got a girlfriend back in Germany, and just to get to know him so that he knows that you care about him more off the ice than you do on the ice. Right. And then hopefully that develops, that relationship develops, that he's going to go through a wall for you. And that's at the end of the day, you're trying to get the best out of him. But Sharps, to your point, it is totally different now. These kids come, and, we were afraid, Sharps, in our day, that if we didn't play well, we were getting sent to the minors. These guys aren't afraid to get sent to the minors. So it's a lot different. I mean, I can remember in Detroit one time, there was we were called up, and Saturday night game, and the Steve Martinson said, "Hoots, hurry up, get undressed. Let's get out before they catch us, so they can't send us down to the minors, so we get an extra day pay." So
yeah,
and he goes,
Marty.
"Don't answer the phone on Sunday." So then we got out of the dressing room Saturday night, and lucky enough they didn't call us on Sunday, but sent us down Monday morning. So we got an extra day's pay because we were on two-way contracts. Well, these guys hop out of there, and they make good money, and it's a little bit different. Other than you do get some of the young guys that are called up that are that have played in the minors and are fearful. And I do believe that you should spend some time in the American League. I think it's, everybody should go to Binghamton, and nothing against Binghamton, but everybody should go to a couple of these cities in the American League just to realize that, okay, you know what, there's just not shrimp cocktail on the plane. You know, you ride that bus and realize that, you know, carry the bags in for the trainers and make sure that, you know, you're packing a lunch on there so you're not hungry. And when you hear the rumble strips under the bus, that you pop your head up, because that's not good.
Yeah.
So I think everybody should have a little quick trip to the American League just to make them respect the NHL a lot more.
Why do you think they've skipped that piece? Why do you think they've suddenly put everybody goes to the NHL and that's where you stay?
Well, you know, that's probably, for me personally, I think it's because of the salary cap, and you got to try and mix some of these younger guys in there. And with, you know, the way the league is now, that they're trying to rush the players. If you can play, you're going to play now. And we don't mind having your $850,000 salary if you can play, compared to some of the older guys. So I do think that comes into it. And I just think nowadays it's, you know, it's pretty watered down. So if you can play, you got to play.
You know, it's funny, Hoods, you should say that. I was thinking about you and Gilly, our buddy there, Ryan McGill, who was with the Knights for the last 5 years, and Hoods. So, you know, we'll watch Detroit. We'll watch, obviously, the Golden Knights here when you were in Detroit and Gilly was here. One thing I was always really impressed with both you guys, and I don't have to give Hoods any compliments because he took $20 off me playing golf a couple weeks ago. But one thing that it just shocking to me as someone that used to play the game, coming in and watching, is the patience that you guys have, how these kids make mistakes, but you guys kept putting them back out there. And back to your story of us running out of the rink, you know, like back in the day, so they wouldn't send us down the next day or that night so we get an extra day's pay. These are thoughts that these guys don't seem to have. I'm not saying they're not nervous or, you know, there's not some issues that they go through, but that's one of the biggest differences I've noticed as a person that's been out of the game for a number of years now, is you guys will play those guys back out there. And I know, you know, in Detroit, I mean, you guys were competitive for a good stretch of the year. And then as the year went on, it got a little tougher. But you explain that a little bit, like how much that's changed since when we came up. Because you and I both know if you made a bad pass or a pinch that was ill-advised, or, you know, someone didn't think that you ran a guy hard enough through the boards, you're sitting in the middle of the bench. Now these guys, basically, they go out there, it's like they're playing with house money, you know?
Well, no, you're right on that. I do think Detroit's in a different situation than Vegas was, because, excuse me, as a rebuilding team, I mean, I may sit a guy for a few shifts, but you're there to try and teach them to play. I don't know if they learn as much now when you sit them out there, because they start to, you know, they probably think that, well, you know, I guess when you make a mistake, you know, you get thrown back out there. And I guess my point being is that in Detroit, we were more of a development team. So you got more lives. You know, in Vegas, when you're trying to win and make the playoffs, you know, you might have to go down to 4. I can stay to 6 to most of the game, because realistically, I mean, I'm trying to teach guys, and do I want to win? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, it's about getting guys to play and to keep getting better and better. So I think there's different circumstances. And again, I've been on both sides of it, like in Boston when we were there and you're winning, and, you know, the last 4 minutes, you might go down to, you're going to go down to 4D, or if someone's not playing well, you're not going to play. So because you have more of a winning attitude. I mean, I think Gilly, for me, I think he's a great coach, and I think he does a great job there and handle those guys extremely well. And I also think that's another part of it, is when you have experienced guys that make mistakes, you know, when they come to the bench, I mean, you've been there, Sharps, and I've been there. And I mean, we all get the eyeball from the head coach, who looks at us to see if we're going to say anything. And I don't like to rip a guy as soon as he comes off the ice, and it's not my job is to really rip him, but I do have to straighten him out. But I don't like, as soon as he steps off the ice, you know, right in his face, like, sit down, think about it, and then go from that. You know, so I do think it takes time, you know, on that part. So for me anyway, I mean, I just think it's different in different situations with different teams. And, you know, Gilly's got Pietrangelo.
Do you find the guys shut down easier than when you played mentally? Like, do you find, like, you can't go as hard?
The one thing that's totally different than when we played in is, like, games are piled up a lot more. And that's one thing I always have to be careful at. I mean, when we played, there seemed like there was a little bit more days off in between, you know what, you know, Christmas, there was, we didn't have a shorter time, but because we had a couple more days off at Christmas now, everything is just combined more. So these guys, when they're playing back-to-back games, they're playing 3 and 4 nights, they get revved up. And you have to sit back as a player and remember that. There's not as many practice days when you're out there. You're trying to keep it going. They are different. I'm not going to say they're not. I mean, some still come a little old school, and some come and they need to be coddled a little bit more. So everybody's different. It's just that the league now, the games are jammed in there. They are jammed, and you're traveling, you're back to back, and you're expected to win.
Right.
Hey, Hoots, talking since you spent your career as a defenseman and a defensive coach, I want to just change gears a little bit and talk about the 11-7 versus 12-6. And for people that might not know that out there, it's 11 forwards, 7 defensemen, or 12 forwards and 6 defensemen. As a guy that some nights you get told, hey, Hoods, we're playing 7D tonight. You and I have discussed this a lot and our feelings on it, but just maybe like Tampa Bay's had a lot of success playing 11 forwards and 7D, but that's not for everybody. Just explain how you talked about rhythm earlier, but just explain how that can affect certain defensemen and guys end up sitting for a long time, and your ability to put them back in the game, especially in an 11-7 scenario.
Well, I'm not a big fan of 11-7 because I think that, your top defensemen are always going to get their ice time. So the bottom 3 that are fighting for that spot, if someone has a bad shift, and what happens is you could be rolling along pretty good, and then all of a sudden one of your bottom 3 has a bad shift, and then all of a sudden panic hits. Okay, now am I going to throw him out there again? And he's been sitting for a few minutes. And for me, at the end in the third period, when we get down to it, you've got your guy that's probably designated as the 7th D. If he's sitting there and he's been sitting for 6-7 minutes, and all of a sudden you get to the 10-minute mark and there's a power play, there's a penalty kill, and he hasn't played. So now all of a sudden you're at the 10-minute mark and he hasn't had a shift. When do you decide to shut him down? Now, I've been in that spot. I've been thrown on the ice. I don't like it. And I won't do it to my guys. I'll whisper in his ear and go, listen, it's nothing that you didn't play bad or anything. I'm just not throwing you and putting you in this situation. I'm not a big fan of 7D. Some coaches like it because they think that they just double shift the Kucherov. So I'm like, well, I look on the other side of it and I go, well, double shift Kucherov. Why can't you just sit the guy in the 4th line instead of me
Another forward? Yeah.
But everybody has their own. And for Tampa, it worked. They did a great job. And I might just not be even very good at 7D because it's a rhythm. And I've told I told Jeff Blashill when he wanted to play it, I go, geez. I said, yeah, I have no problem doing it. I said, I don't like it. I think it wrecks your rhythm of the 6D. But your top guys are going to get their ice time. It's just a scramble for the bottom 3. And I don't think it's fair to them sometimes of coming in and out.
No, I agree. And we both played a 7D. And there's nothing worse than sitting there all night. And then the last 3 or 4 minutes of the game, away you go. Because the game, when you're getting your next shift as the 7th D, if you haven't played in a while, the game's decided and it sucks. Lord Bag, did you have anything? I know we got lots more questions, but did you want to jump in there with Hoods on something?
Yeah. How does an assistant coach get hired? Is it the general manager or is it the coach that hires them? Like who do you have to have the relationship with?
Usually, like I said, so going back to the American League, I was a player in Rochester, New York, and Randy Cunnyworth, we played together there. Then he took over for the head coaching job. And then I played another year and then the assistant coach left. So then I was able to basically get hired by the head coach, but you always have to get okayed by the general manager.
Right.
And same thing in the NHL when I was hired by Dave Lewis. I just know Dave Lewis from Detroit. He went to Boston and hired me, and he had phoned and asked me, obviously to go to Boston with him. And then you have a quick interview or not a quick, but you have a interview with the general manager. But a lot of times the assistants will get hired, or brought in and then interviewed. It's the head coach that brings you in if you have a relationship. Definitely helps. And everybody sort of brings them. Seems like now, Ian, it seems like the general manager maybe brings one guy in and the coach brings one guy in. just so that they're both just not the coach's guys.
Does that make it weird? Does that make it seem like, oh, that guy's a spy for the general manager?
Well, I mean, the players all know who's guy.
Right.
They're not stupid nowadays. They even, from playing to whatever, they know who brought you in, who's guy and who's not. And they just know that stuff, and it's stuff they feel out. And it takes a while. You have to just make sure that you're not just running to the head coach all the time.
Yeah. It's gotta be tough. Like, for you guys, it's quick. I don't know if it's quicker, but for me, I've had development deals where I've made projects where there's a president of a network who's okayed me. And by the time we've finished the project and it's getting to be chosen, he's been fired or she's been fired. And now there's a new regime and I'm just gone. You know what I mean? Like, it's got to be the same kind of thing. There's got to be this annoying things change and you're not their guy.
Oh, for sure. No, okay. So
doesn't matter how well you're doing.
No, and both situations. I mean, because I can look at, when I first went to Boston, I went with Dave Lewis, and the way things worked out was very fortunate that, so unfortunate Dave gets fired, but I was able to stay. Now I went, my whole role changed.
Does Dave call you up and tell you?
Pardon me?
Does Dave call you up and tell you to? You stayed? What, you said you're supposed to walk out.
So I end up staying, but my role all changed because the new coaching, Claude Julien comes in. He's got the guy to run the D. I actually leave the bench and go upstairs for 2 years. And realistically, it was the best thing for me. I wasn't ready to step into the role I was at the year before. In Detroit, we were there with Kenny Holland, and then Steve Yzerman comes in. He keeps us, but we're really not his, he didn't hire us. So we might not have been the guys. He was good to us, but we might not have been the guys that he hired to start. So
right. Even though you played with him.
Yes.
Is that going to be annoying? Cause you know things about him. Look, and I know you shit your pants one time in Winnipeg.
Hey, Hoots, on that note, hey, Hoots, talk about a little bit about, you touched on video earlier, but just maybe give everybody a little bit of an insight into what a practice day for a coach looks like and a game day, and what that might entail when you get to the rink, any kind of video you're going to do or specific drills you want to cover. Like, what's a practice day look like? And we'll just say you're in Detroit versus a game day.
Well, practice day for us, obviously we're always there early in the mornings. At 7, if you had a game the night before, you would definitely dive right into the game and start. Sometimes we have different areas that you work out. So for me, it was the D zone and, breakouts and penalty kills. So then you start watching those areas, and then you start watching some of the players that, Mo Sider, this Harana kid, you watch players that you need to really pay attention to and try to help out. And then you'll have time before practice, after you've cut some clips, to try and go track those guys down and meet with them individually. And if not, then you're setting up times to meet with them right after practice. And you try to get that done as soon as you can, because there's obviously more games coming up. So before they leave that day, you want to have it set up that you've left, you've done your work from the night before and you've just left it. If it's good or bad, we've just moved on to the next game. And then you'll go, we call it the war room. We go into the round table and start sitting there and brainstorming on practice a little bit. If there's something in the game that's been brought up, if it was a bad forecheck or bad D zone, then we might show some clips to just the coaches ourselves. If we decide that we need to show the whole group, then we'll meet with the whole group, players and that, before they go on the ice, and go over a couple of scenarios that happen from the D zone that we're going to go out there and practice. If it's a track, penalty killing, special teams, whatever. And then we'll start putting drills together on the basis that where we had issues the night before. So everything seems to roll in together of, how you played the night before, what you need. Are you guys tired? Special teams bad, we got to work on that. And, D zone bad, we got to work on that. Are we scoring goals? No, we're not scoring any goals. We're allowing too many. So those are the things we just, we go into practice trying to determine what area we need to work on.
And so a day for you, a practice day, you get there at 7. Would you be out of there by 3? I don't know what time.
Yeah, you know what?
Normally,
It
how long?
depends. After a game, practice is usually at noon the next day. On a regular game day when there's no practice, we're in there at 11. So you're still always out. You can always be out by 3:34, getting your stuff done, and everybody still tries to get an hour workout and get out of there. But as long as you're organized and organized as a staff, you can run through a game, and get it done the night before. You'd ask about game days. Now, game days are obviously as they fill, like the non-game day still too. The one thing I missed is there's still preparation in that day to make sure that you're doing a pre-scout. So at the end of the day, if you've done all your video from the night before on a game and you get that over with, the next day after practice, now you start doing some of the times the video coach does some stuff on pre-scout and another team getting it ready for you. But for me on the penalty killing, as soon as that practice was over, I'd come back in, I'd meet with players. Then I would dive into the next night with the next team we're playing and start cutting. And what I do is I go back for the last 4 games, take all their power plays and then go through all their power plays and cut out, a minute and a half, 2 minutes of clips to show. And that would take, my meeting for the penalty kill would take place game day before the game at 5:00. And we would also do even strength or power play be done in the morning. Some teams do the 5-on-5 in the morning. Some teams do 5-on-5 at night. But for me, the penalty killing was always at night because we thought sometimes the guys would forget. And, a little bit of time in between and, it needs to be fresh in your mind. But so power play was always in the morning. 5-on-5 varied from morning to night. Try not to have too many meetings. Try not to have too long. And then, like I said, after the morning skate, the guys have their meals and that there. And, when we would stay there, some days we'd stay at the rink or go home and then back, and then you're right there. And then again, you're there on a game day, you're there at 7. And if you don't leave the rink, you don't get home till midnight. Sometimes those are long days at times, but that's why
You
we
guys
get the
have
summers off.
You guys obviously had an analytic guy in Detroit, right?
Yes.
How long had he been there, and was he their first one?
No, they've had so Kenny Holland had an analytic guy there that's sort of been with them, and then it just keeps getting, the analytics group just keeps getting bigger and bigger, I believe, and just more in depth. It just keeps going. I mean,
easy for you guys to work with, or is it kind of a?
No, you know what? I've heard some stories. I've heard some stories where it is, some guys are analytic guys and some are not.
Because for the most part, none of them have played hockey, right?
As far as I know,
right?
Yeah,
so
as far as I know, they're breaking it down, different areas. They're breaking it down, how they see it. In Detroit, I know Jeff Blashill took the analytics guys, and we all got sent videos at times, and it was broke down to certain areas where we thought scoring chances were how we thought it was. So it was consistent, not compared to how they thought it was. Now there's also another, there's another, what is it? It's called Sports Logic. And Sport Logic it's another computer software, whatever, but it's how they've broke it down. Now, does it compare to ours? Does it compare to theirs? Right. So it's trying to get in, you're trying to, get even to see which one's best, basically, or just being realistic. I mean, if you come down the ice and you take a shot on a breakaway and it misses the net, is it a scoring chance? Some count it, some don't.
That's how I played.
In Boston, we called it an off-net grade A scoring chance.
That's what I called it too.
So analytics are big, though.
I blamed it on how the building was built, and they'd moved the net to the side of where I shoot.
That's exactly it.
Who's the most important person in that organization for you? Like, not naming names, but what position, as the defensive coach, who makes your life easy?
Who makes it easy?
Yes.
Well, I answer to, obviously, well, I'm going to go back to Boston, not even talk about Detroit, but in Boston, I mean, I answer to Claude Julien He was my boss. If the GM had a problem, he went to Claude, and then Claude would come to me if there was something. If Dano Chara was playing too much, that was it. Like, Claude was my boss. Pete Chiarelli was his boss. So if there's a problem, Pete went to Claude, then Claude come to me.
Mhm.
It wasn't really the other way. It was always, through the chain down that way.
Okay.
So
Hey,
head coach for
Hoots.
me is the guy that I have to answer to all the time.
That's the one that makes your life hell, or makes it.
Yeah. The GMs can get more involved, which they do nowadays, but just in my past experience, it's been more with the head coach than anyone.
Mm-hmm. Jeff?
Let's talk about we've
Let's
got
talk
the
about
finals starting this week, and since you are the penalty killing specialist, you got two
Yeah, we were
dynamic
last.
power plays. It's funny because Hoots and I went for lunch a couple weeks ago. I guess 3 weeks ago now in
Horse dealership?
Vegas here. No, we didn't. We went to another place, DW Bistro, which was phenomenal. And Hoots brought out the computer and was showing the power plays. We looked at power plays in St. Louis, Colorado. I think we looked at Tampa too. I mean, you know Tampa really well because you guys saw them so much, but you also had Colorado broken down pretty well. Obviously, they've got superstars all over the place. Just kind of, if you look at those teams, you can break down, give us a quick answer on both. What are you trying to do? Like, if you're coaching against Tampa Bay, which you do a lot, how are you trying to stymie what they do? Tell us what they want to do, and the same thing with the Avs. Where ultimately are they trying to get the puck to? And how are you, as best you can, how are you guys trying to make sure that doesn't happen?
Well, okay, we'll start with Tampa right off the bat. Like, the one thing with Tampa is they got the guys on the half wall, like Kucherov he's probably one of the best passers in the world. I do think the one thing that hurts them is when Braden Point's not in the lineup, it does hurt him entering. They're not as fast entering, and then Kucherov's got to come back, where a lot of times bringing the puck up the ice, it is just Point grabbing the puck and wheeling through. They've got Hedman on the back, and then obviously, you've got Stamkos on that elbow that's going to one-time pucks. So the biggest thing is if you can win the draw and get pucks out, make sure you get your clears, and then try and have a good stand at the line, not to let them get set up. Easier said than done, because the speed and the talent of Kucherov, you're pushing him to the right and he throws the puck to the left and he creates space, and you still, at the end of the day, you have to remember they have one more guy than you. So you keep thinking, well, I've got to stand up, but it is tough. Once they do get set up in zone, obviously Kucherov is a passer. The guy up on top, lucky enough, is not a right-handed shot. He's a left-handed shot, or it would even be more dangerous than it is with Hedman. Big thing that they try to do all the time is Kucherov's big plays are to obviously right through the seam to Stamkos. He's going to fake slap, go right through. If he doesn't hit him, Point pops out and they hit Braden Point, or it goes to the goal line to Point. Those are his big plays. So how do you stop him? Well, if you start running at him, he's so good, he puts it through you. So certain teams play. I mean, I do think that the Rangers did a decent job on him, but I do think that when you don't have Braden Point, it made a big difference. So they played a diamond on him. So basically they were trying not to, their backside forward is trying not to let Stamkos get any one-timer. So they were sitting on him, and then the left defenseman's supposed to get up and get in between. We call it the bumper. The guy in the middle is the bumper. He gets up in between him and Kucherov. And the way we did it is, if you had to give up a shot, you were not going to give up a seam pass. You weren't going to give up a bumper play to Point. If it's up over, you're going to give up a one-timer to Kucherov so that the goalie knows that's his shot. So basically killing penalties, you're just trying to break it down and take away their most dangerous plays. Now, the most dangerous plays for Tampa is Point and Stamkos, because that's one's in the middle and one's a seam pass, and he can shoot the puck a ton. So if it goes up over from the top, then your goalie hopefully can get out and stop it. But anything through the seam, that's what you're trying to stop all the time. And if you go to Colorado, they're the same thing. They run it. They got McKinnon on that side, and they've got a lefty that pops out, so they always run a pop-out play. So when Rantanen has the puck on the side, what is he looking for? He's looking to go right through the seam all the time. And those guys don't care.
Mm-hmm.
If you're standing in there, they're going right through you anyway. They're going to put it through your skate blade. They don't care. They're going right through you. So you have to have a great stick, great feet. You got to anticipate. But so what are you going to take away from them? You're going to take away the seam pass to McKinnon is one-timer. But what they have is they have a righty up on top who can dance the line better than anybody in the league and wrist pucks through with a good guy with their net front. Who's their net front?
Is it Landeskog?
Landeskog in front, who's honestly one of the best in the league. So now they wristed in front with him. And to me, the guy up on top, though, makes it extremely difficult. So whoever's fronting him, you know, you got to make sure that you're trying to block that shot. So two extremely, really, really good power plays, especially if Tampa Bay gets point back. I would say the penalty killing on both of them has probably struggled a little bit in the playoffs. I think that Tampa struggled against the Rangers a little bit because they give Zibanejad. They play it differently. They don't play a diamond. They play more of a guy in the middle stays, and the top guy, I call it, sweeps across. He sweeps, and then the defense step out. Well, could you imagine if you're the right D sharps and you got to keep stepping out on Zabinejad's one-timer all the time? Oh my gosh, the guy can shoot a bomb.
Yeah.
So, you know, so that makes it tough.
Exactly. You could see them coming out. I don't really want to do this, but I got to. And then he parts his he parted Andrew Kopp's hair in front of the net. You could see Kopp looking at him too. Like nobody wants to stand in front of that or near it. So,
so I think they scored one goal, Sharps. It was earlier in the series. So 2 times it went up, over, and the right D stepped out, sort of turned, missed the net, up, over, missed the net. The next one went through the seam. He couldn't get out. It was in the net. I mean, so I mean, if you play against the Rangers, what are you going to give up? You don't want it. You're going to give up the top. You're going to give up Panarin, but you don't want to give up Zibanejad. So that's what I'm saying is what our job is, you know, when we're looking at penalty kills is to try and take away their most dangerous plays, to try and make them, okay, now we have to roll and make a different play, move different guys into different positions. So that's what we're trying to do all the time when we're looking or pre-scouting.
And who do you think is going to win?
Well, I mean, I still think that Tampa has, you know, I'm not going on a limb to say that. I just know that Tampa's got 4 great defensemen, and they've got an unbelievable goalie. And if Braden Point comes back, I think that's a huge lift for them. And I heard some rumors. It sounds like Kadri might play. I don't know. You know, he's got a broken thumb or whatever. But I don't know. I actually think it's going to be really. Don't you think it'd be crazy if a team won 3 in a row? I mean, I'm actually rooting for them.
Yeah, kind of fun. I don't know. Do you think if Kadri comes back, you know that he has a broken thumb, so now you know he can't do certain things? Does he give away what he's able to do, so he becomes detrimental? You know what I mean?
But he might be able to still check, though, and he can probably still check pretty well. You know, he wouldn't be as good on the draws because I don't think you can take the draws, obviously, like that. But just his presence, he just seems to tick people off, and he gets in there, and he's a great defender. So, you know, I think just having him back slots other guys where they should be. So it definitely helps. I mean, taking the faceoffs to me would be the big thing. And on the PK, he pops out if he can shoot, or the PP, if he pops out and he can shoot the puck, then he'll be fine. He's going to deflect it. He's going to battle.
Right.
But still it'd be nice to have him back in your lineup if you're playing and he's on your team.
Hey, Hoots, you know, you bring up a great point. We talked about it. You know, I mean, you saw these guys all year in Tampa the last 3, 4, 5 years, but I just think that you don't have to chase, you know, like I know in Detroit, you were trying to match up, right? You got a young team there. You don't have to chase a matchup in Tampa with Hedman, Sergachev, McDonough, and Chernak. So you got those guys that you can play against anybody, and you have Vasilevsky, your goalie, who's now looks like a brick wall in there. And I agree. I think it took Tampa a while to get their game on, but as series have gone on and the playoffs have gone on, they're looking a lot more like the Tampa that's won the cup the last 2 years, and their structure is amazing.
They didn't really ever have that panic in them, you know, where like, this could end. Never had that.
No,
really
I think the 9 days off hurt them the first two games, and especially the first game, and what happens when a team like the Rangers, they play in game 7, they have 1 or 2 days off and they just roll it. So their momentum's going. The other team's been sitting there for 9 days. They go
Mhm.
out, they get going, they beat them. But like you said, there's no panic. They just go and they just got better as the series went on, but they got more engaged to it, right? As they get more engaged into the series, now it's game on, and they just keep coming at you and coming at you. And I thought they played extremely well at the end, and comes back to the goaltender, makes big saves, and both goaltenders are phenomenal. They played great, and that's how both teams get there. I mean, you have to have great goaltending.
Yeah. Which is the best building to go into as an opposition?
Well, I got to think, as an opposition, there's, the Las Vegas right now for me is one of the best atmospheres in the league.
Mhm.
It's just awesome going in there. I mean, any of the New York, when you go into New York's always great, the atmosphere there. But I have to still say that, the national anthem, there's still nothing better than the national anthem in Chicago.
Mhm.
It's phenomenal. But the atmosphere in Vegas is really cool. And, to go there as a player and a coach and just to go out there, I mean, it's a show, but it's a lot of fun going and playing there for sure.
It's got to be different though, as an original 6 team going into any place other than the other original 5. You've got 50% of the fans are wearing your jersey, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
That's a
absolutely.
different thing. So.
That was a big thing in Boston. We go in Arizona or wherever we went out west in Calgary or whatever, like around in warm up, you get 5,000 or 6,000 people with the Bruins jersey on and the Red Wings jersey. I mean, it was really cool. The people that come out that are, original 6 fans and, loyal fans to those teams. So it's actually very cool when you go into those buildings.
What's your dream job?
Well, it's probably living in Montana with Sharps, golfing. So, my dream job, I'm fortunate. I'm doing it. I get to work in the National Hockey League. I get to work with with great athletes and great people. And I've been around a long time, but I've been able to meet great people and be in big, nice cities and enjoy it. And it's been a great run. Hopefully I do it for a few more years.
Right. It's got to be. We're just 2 kids from Terrace, and you're from a crow's nest. Every so often, you just got to wake up and look around and go, "Well, this is different than hang out in front of Safeway."
Yeah, isn't that the truth? I mean, my quick story when I was got drafted by Detroit, my brother, I grew up in the Crow's Nest Pass, and it's a mining town.
Mm-hmm.
And I get home from the draft, and my brother goes, and he'd worked in the mine his whole life, and my dad had worked in the mine, and then my dad ran the arena in the Crow's Nest Pass, and my brother goes, "You're going to come to work with me tomorrow," and I go, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, you're going to come for a tour with me." So I ended up going, spent a half a day, and he was underground at the time, and I just scared the crap right out of me. We went through a tunnel that was only about, maybe it was 10 by 10, but I couldn't see him. And it just
Right.
grabbed on. It was an air vent, and then went down, rode all the machines, did everything we could underneath there, did whatever they were doing, working and cutting the rocks and everything. And then we took the belt on the way out, but we were a mile down, I believe. And it was just this, he just sent the message that if you don't work hard in hockey, he goes, "This is, you're going to be working with me."
Yeah.
So it's something that stuck with me forever and ever. And I mean, he makes a great living, and, people make a great living. I was fortunate to leave.
Nice. Anybody else from Crow's Nest that went on and played?
Yeah. Darcy Walklock, goaltender. He was a good friend. I think he played with Sharps too in Kelowna. Sharps.
Yeah, played junior with Walk, who's our goalie, and
Great name.
Walk was the first goalie I ever saw that was in shape.
Oh,
You think
yes.
back,
Isn't that the truth?
Walk's in great shape, and he didn't snap very often, but when he snapped, you don't want to be anywhere near him. But great guy, went on to play in Buffalo, drafted by Buffalo, I think, and played there. But yeah, so a couple of NHL boys out of Crow's Nest Pass, and Walk, what a great guy.
One more Sharps was Rick Rippon. Remember the young boy from
Really?
Vancouver that passed
yeah.
away? Now he was from
Yeah.
Coleman, and his family and that. Like I played junior hockey with his dad and his uncle on that, and just a great family. It's sad to when he passed away. It's very sad, but he was a great kid with a lot of gumption and
Yeah.
come with a great family. So he just come from Coleman.
Wow, he made a huge impact. He played with our boy Flats, Wade Flaherty, with the Manitoba Moose. Obviously, they had BX and they had Kessler there then, and they had some of their other young guys. And obviously, he made a big impact on those guys. And in Vancouver, and sadly, he's not with us anymore.
Yeah.
But he was a heck of a player, and he had a great motor.
No.
Not a lot of guys around that play like him.
Pound for pound, he's probably one of the toughest guys.
Yeah.
And also what you just said there, in the minors, all those names in the minors that turned out to be just monsters in the league. That's this a little bit of time there, just biding time and just becoming. Yeah.
No, I'm a big believer in that. And like I said, I think the minors, I know Sharps was like spoon fed, so he didn't get as much time down there as I did.
Spoon.
Only most of my career.
No, but I think honestly, I go back. I wouldn't change it for anything. I think it teaches you how to be a real pro. It's just life lessons, and some of the people down there that are just down to earth are just great. Say down there, but in the American League are just great people, and it's a great league. I mean, it's tougher than ever to get out of that league and go to the NHL, and you learn a lot. But I just think it's a great starting point for a lot of young players.
Any hints for kids that are around 16 years old on that border, headed to junior hockey? Tell them what they should be doing to keep their head on straight and which way to go to make sure they're faced north to the NHL.
Well, the one thing for me, like I grew up in the Crow's Nest Pass, so school was not really the option for me. Like I was in college.
We're the same way.
And I don't want to say that, but so
You're a smart guy, Hoots. Come on.
Of school right now. I mean, if you can go to school and you can come out with a degree and still play the game you love, I don't think there's anything better. Not that junior hockey is bad, but I think it's for, if you're good at school, go to school. If you're not, then there's different ways. But
back
in our day, it wasn't offered to us as much. Now the schooling, and I follow it, and I see how these guys, the alumni, work together and how close they are and how much they look after each other. I think it's a real special bond that they have. We still bug them all the time, the college guys and that, but I do think it is a pretty cool, cool alumni to be in or to be involved in it with them. But I do think that the schooling is a huge thing for any young kid to go to if you can, and play a game and have fun and go to school.
Yeah,
Jeff, any more questions?
Well, just 4 years. Hoods and I, our path was a little different, right? And I think a lot of the kids, especially here in the smaller towns, maybe back in the day, didn't see the resources available to them. But you're a student athlete at school. Sometimes in junior, you became an athlete student, and the cart got in front of the horse, and it was, NHL or bust. Well, there's only so many guys that are going to play pro hockey and gals that are going to play at a high level. And if, schooling, we talk about it as parents now, but schooling is a huge part of it. One of the things you'd be able to tell right away back in the day, when you walked into a dressing room, you could tell a difference between a kid that had played college and a kid that had played junior, just because the college kids were more like men, and the junior kids, we'd been on these buses driving all over Western Canada or Ontario or Quebec. And so it was different, but without going down the rabbit hole too far, I agree with Hoots. I think that if you can get out there and have some ability or a chance to play college hockey, definitely consider it. It's not for everybody. In the Western Hockey League, Hoots and I both played in that league, and we've got lifelong friends from there. So, that's an option as well. And they're starting to come up and pay for schooling for guys that don't play pro, which is huge.
I do think too, the one thing, you talk about the, I don't know, the college for me is just, it's changed a lot of my mind over the years. I mean, we changed my mind. We've watched guys come in and out of the league, and now when you go there and you develop for a couple of years and play, but coming out with an education out of there if you can, and playing, I think it's just so important. I mean, where I was going to go with this before is, Ian, you had mentioned one thing about a 16-year-old kid. I don't think it happens as much anymore, like time off for these kids at times. I think they run wild. Like, back when we played, we were able to go to, if it was baseball, hockey, there was different sports that you were involved with. Now there's not different sports. If you're into hockey, you're hockey 24/7.
Right.
You go right through it, and your dad's getting extra ice, and you guys are paying for it. I think it's important to play some other sports, have some fun.
There's
I still think
Switzerland.
develop.
Switzerland has an interesting Olympic program where you're not allowed to keep score in any sport until the age of 12 or 14, and it's to get kids to play every sport, so they learn the sport and not hate it because they're on a team that got thrashed 12-1. You know what I mean? It's a very, I think that whole everybody gets a trophy is an interesting thing, but it has to turn. And I think Switzerland's doing it kind of right, because they do that thing where everybody gets a trophy until a certain age, and then it becomes competitive. And their Olympics medal count has gone up since they've started this program.
Really? That's interesting.
It's an interesting way of getting a kid that might be shy to play a sport without getting thrashed.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
falling in love with it, and then growing into, because we all know guys that grew into becoming themselves,
Yeah.
Hey, Hoots, I'll
You guys were
finish.
talking about me.
Hey, you know what? We can do this on a week when we don't have an interview, okay? We'll just share it.
He's like, shut up. Do
You're
you have
gonna
one more
cut me off?
question?
Yeah,
You have
I
one
do.
more question, Jeff?
I do have a question for Hoots. Hoots, Stanley Cup Finals coming this week,
Never
and I
heard of
know, well, tune in tomorrow night, Wednesday night. But Hoots, I'm just going to give you the hypothetical: the Colorado Avalanche win. If this player does this, Tampa Bay wins. If this player does this, just give us a couple players on each team. I mean, obviously the superstars are pretty easy to pick out, but is there anybody that stands out to you that might not be like a marquee player that's going to make a difference in these two series for this series for these two teams?
Well, I think, obviously for Tampa, Braden Point is the huge one, right? If he comes back, I gives them a great opportunity. I always think it's the guys in the trenches a little bit that got to get the job done. And the one that I'm a little biased, but Darren Helm, I thought that line in Colorado, as both series have gone on, the coaches gained a lot more confidence in those guys and give them more ice time, bigger roles, which I think that helps. Obviously, takes a little bit of ice time away from some of the other guys that don't have to play the heavier minutes. As long as you can trust Darren Helm and whoever's on his fourth line with them to get some job done from experience, I really believe that helps. Still, same as your defense, same thing, but there's some special players in these playoffs when you have Point, Kucherov, and then, Makar. Like, just to watch him is it's unbelievable how good he is. When he gets going that line,
do you think he's the most? I mean, we got McDavid, McKinnon, and Kucherov. These guys are superstars. But do you think Makar is possibly the most valuable player in the league, or at this point maybe the best player in the league? And that's not to say that what McDavid did in the playoffs with Draisaitl was incredible, but this guy's a special player. Is he in that conversation with the top of the top in the league now?
Oh, I think he's got to be up there, and I think he's shown it this playoffs. And I think you just got to keep, it's consistency, right? So, I mean, this is going to be a big series for him, how he leaves this series. You know how everybody gets judged. He gets to the finals, but he can't win. Well, this kid's going to get to the finals. He's going to have to keep producing. And, the way he keeps going, it looks like he will. You always have to win for everybody to put you in that category, I think. And I think he's a young kid that's
just kind of weird in a team game, right?
What's that?
It's kind of weird in a team game that you're not judged individually on your individual effort.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, can anybody really change the outcome of a 4-game series by themselves? If everybody else goes down and you're on your own with a couple people that are the Black Knights, you know.
Yeah. Well, look at Steph Curry last night. If you're talking basketball, he doesn't have a great night, but his teammates pick him up, they win the game.
Yep.
Right. And he's mad at his parents.
Awesome. That's all I got for Hoods, man. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me.
Hey, hey, before you go, we got to tell everybody Hoods has got to go and shovel his driveway because he's up in Montana.
Oh,
How much snow are you guys going to get tonight? Are you supposed to get snow?
Well, it's up in the mountains. We're lucky enough. It just rained. It hasn't stopped raining all day.
That's
You can't see across the lake. It's cloudier than ever. Like I said, there's 4 or 5 inches on the, and it's not that far up the hill right now. It's not going to come down this way, but it's not that far. And then supposed to start warming up, and by Friday we're into the 80s.
Sadly, but sea-doos instead of ski-doos.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome, Hoots. Thanks, man.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys.
Appreciate you. Very nice. He's very nice, that Doug Gouda, and he's very knowledgeable. And looks like he might be in really good shape still, too.
Yeah, Hoots is a great guy. Known him a long time, and his wife, Shelly. Awesome hockey people. There's not many people that aren't great hockey people, but Hoots is one of the best. 20 years. So this is a guy that came out of the game and went right into coaching. So Hoots has never done anything but been in hockey. Really impressive. And there's a couple other guys like that that I know quite well, played with. Dean Chenault was one of them. He's assistant coach in Toronto. And Ryan McGill was another one who came out, and he was with Vegas for the last 5 years. So those guys combined have like 60 years of coaching experience. It's incredible. But Hoots is a great guy, and he hits the golf ball a ton. Don't play him for money because he'll take your money. And yeah, but he's a lot of fun. Hopefully people got to see a little bit of insight into what the assistant or the coaches go through.
And while he was there, we learned that Las Vegas has a new coach.
Yeah, the Vegas has supposedly hired Bruce Cassidy, former Bruins coach, which I think is a great pickup. I mean, every
Which
year
means,
that he was in,
Terry,
what's it mean?
it means Trotz said no. That's what that means, right?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, Trotz has really got a draw, I think, towards Manitoba and Winnipeg. There's a possibility there, but maybe they just got tired of waiting. Who knows? Or maybe it just wasn't a fit. But you still have 2 unbelievable coaches. Well, you have lots out there, but you've got Trotz, you've got Tocchet, you've got DeBoer, you've got Vigneault. You got some really, I'm sure there's a couple other guys out there too, but some really good coaches out there.
Tortorella's been rumored to
Tortorella.
be going to Philadelphia. Do you think Blashill will get another shot?
You might get another shot. Depends on where, maybe a team he's got to develop again, try and do similar to what they did in Detroit. But, don't be surprised to see him show up maybe as an assistant next year.
Green is another one
Yeah.
they've been mentioning.
They talked about Travis here in Vegas, but I'm not sure if Travis will take an assistant coach role yet. There's a job out there for him, but
Guy from Dallas as well too. I'm blanking on his name.
Rick Bowness, and then they're talking about Montgomery, who was in St. Louis a couple of years. So there's lots of great coaches out there ready to go. So
it's got to make you nervous with that many. If you're coaching a team and they're edge, they tip one way, they tip the other way. There's people waiting for your job. They're lined up.
Yeah. You know what's going to be interesting with Cassidy out in Vegas? He spent his whole coaching career, or at least a good chunk of it, in the Eastern Conference.
Mm-hmm.
And they play a lot more
kind of fits in Vegas too, though.
Kind of style.
Good looking guy.
Oh yeah, he's good. And I played against him a little bit, but he's had a heck of a career. And all that he's done is make the playoffs every year in Boston. So I guess they just figured it was time to make a change. And what a great place to coach, Boston. He's coming out to another place where it's great for coaches and players too. So
it's not horrible.
Nope, not at all. But
not at all.
Yeah, I mean the pressure's on, right? I mean the expectation in Vegas, but he had expectation in Boston too. They're always expected to be a cup contender, so I don't think he'll have any problems with that.
Any shout outs?
Yeah. So we got shout outs. I brought them up during the show, but our friends from Florida that we saw last weekend. I actually have a few shout outs today. Paul Michelle Reagan, Jerry and Pete McCaffrey. When we came to Vegas in '93, they were with the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds, and they hosted us, our team, many times out at the Air Force Base in Nellis, and they just treated us like gold. And of course, we saw them again last week. They did the same thing again. So shout out to them. I want to make a shout out to the Canadian Open too. I don't know if you watched it all this weekend.
No.
They had hockey boards on the 16th hole
No way.
at the Canadian Open at St. George's outside of Toronto, and Rory
Awesome.
McIlroy won it, and the place was going bananas. And the crowd stormed the 18th green. They were all around it, and it was so good to see everyone back in Canada just letting loose and showing, like golf is usually a quieter sport. Well, they were letting her loose, and the fact that they had hockey boards on the 16th hole, it's a par three, um, was amazing. And I have one more shout out, but you might cover it. If you don't, I'll jump in with it.
Are you talking about the Canadian WIHF? Is that team? You're gonna give them a shout out? All right.
Yeah, you can give them a shout out.
Okay, go ahead. You give them a
That's
shout
how
out.
I was going to do it.
Okay. You go
You
ahead.
give them a shout out.
I gave him a shout. I just gave him a shout out. I don't even know what. You know what it was? I was just my shout out is I was gonna bitch about that. So I'll just bitch it really quick, and then I think I know what you're gonna do. So I can't keep up with how many tournaments there are. They're just.
Oh, I know.
I'm like, come on. I can't cheer for Canada. 84 tournaments a year.
Yeah, and it's crazy. And I want to jump back on something Hoots said earlier. This is shout out for Hoots coming on, but he said something about make sure your kids do different sports and get their time off. And we always talk about when I talk to parents, in the parents that they're usually really receptive to it. I'm not going to be able to get your kid to go play. They're not going to the training camp with the Golden Knights in September. Okay.
Right.
And most of your kids out there aren't going, right? That's just,
Right.
It's not going to happen this year in minor hockey. We're not going to be able to get them to the Canucks or Rangers training camp or the Knights. But what we can help do is keep them playing. And the goal is to make sure they're still playing when they're 15 and 16 years old. And you talking about having a hard time keeping track of all the tournaments. Well, as parents and people that organize these things, we kind of have, who's the adults, right?
Right.
And we have to take control of this stuff. So parents out there, the goal isn't
we should realize that not everybody's going to make the NHL. I'm interrupting you a bit, but hockey's been a huge part of my life. I never had a chance of making the NHL, but it's been a huge part of my life. My first role in a film I got because of Tim Robbins, and I used to play in a hockey league with him at noon in New York City, and he got me into the SAG-AFTRA guild. He got me, I didn't have to go to the NHL for it to help my life out and for it to be part of it. I think I'm a pretty good human. And when I was out there, when I out there, I coached hockey. Like I just gave my time because I had all sorts of time. Stand-ups, not that many hours a day. So, so yeah, I think I do. Did I want to make the NHL? Yes. Did I know I was not making the NHL? Yes. So it's okay.
Well, it's okay, but it's also okay to dream. And if that's your dream,
right,
to play in the NHL, then dream that. But work at it. If it's your dream to be an actor, we're waiting for the big, you had someone step up and help you, but yeah, look at you go. You're a good actor. But then dream. Like that's not what we're not saying. But when these kids are younger, we are there to provide resources, but we're also there to tap the brakes, right? And that's the biggest thing. And anyways, we could go round and round about that, but I want to finish off a really, really dear friends of ours, Denise and Trevor Hendry. Denise lost her dad this week. We love you guys, and they're our biggest supporters. And we love when you guys come down to Vegas and see us. And hope you guys are doing well. Love to all.
Love to all.